I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would steal, but life has a funny way of pushing you to make choices you'd never imagined. It started on an ordinary Tuesday, when I was struggling with bills and an empty fridge. My landlord had been threatening to evict me for months, and the weight of the situation was suffocating. The man I stole from was Mr. Johnson, an old man who lived next door. He was quiet, often seen sitting by his window, sipping tea, lost in his own world. His wealth was no secret, but he was always kind to me. Too kind. He never knew how much I envied him, his calm, his comfort, his stability. One evening, as I walked past his house, I noticed the window was slightly open. I paused, considering the possibilities. What if I just took a little? Just enough to get me through the next month? I pushed the thought away, but it lingered. The next day, the opportunity arrived. Mr. Johnson had been out all morning, and I knew he'd be back in the afternoon. I had time. I didn't think too much about the consequences, I was desperate. I slipped into his house through the unlocked back door. His home smelled like old wood and lavender. The quiet hum of the house felt strangely welcoming, but I ignored it. I went straight to his study. There it was, sitting on the desk, a thick envelope of cash. His savings, no doubt. Without a second thought, I grabbed it and shoved it into my pocket. My heart pounded as I sneaked out, trying to make it seem like nothing had happened. For the rest of the day, I couldn't shake the guilt. It gnawed at me, but I tried to bury it under the excitement of what the money could do for me. I paid off my bills, bought some groceries, and even treated myself to a few luxuries. But the happiness didn't last. It felt hollow. That night, Mr. Johnson knocked on my door. His voice trembled when he spoke. "I think I've lost something, my dear. Have you seen any money around?" It was in an envelope. I froze. The shame hit me like a tidal wave, and I could barely meet his eyes. "No, Mr. Johnson. I haven't seen anything," I lied, my voice shaking. He looked at me for a moment, his gaze searching. Then he simply nodded, looking defeated. "All right. I suppose it's just my memory. Thank you." I closed the door behind him, my hands trembling. The money I had stolen felt like a curse, and I couldn't shake the image of his sad, old face. I had taken something from him, not just money, but his peace of mind. The guilt consumed me, gnawing at my soul. I thought I'd escaped, that I'd gotten away with it, but the truth was, I hadn't. I wasn't the person I used to be anymore. Every time I saw Mr. Johnson, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my actions. A week later, I returned the money. I didn't leave it in an envelope or at his door. No, I went into his house, placed the cash back on his desk, and left without saying a word. He never knew I had stolen it, but I knew. I knew I had crossed a line that I could never undo. I couldn't escape the truth, I had stolen his money. But in the end, I realized that the real loss was my own integrity.